Alright, I'll talk about another monster movie in just a second, but before I get to that, I want to give a shout out once again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. That's right, Squarespace, a leader in the web design industry for over 20 years. And now they've given everyone a tool that makes building a professional website easier than ever: Design Intelligence. All you have to do is describe your business, choose your preferences, and select your favorite colors, and Design Intelligence will handle the rest, creating a completely customized site loaded with all the features you need. If you're a creator, Squarespace offers tons of amazing tools to showcase your work. Whether it's music, painting, or maybe you just want to talk about your favorite weird movies like me. You can even set up an exclusive members-only section to give premium content to paying customers. Squarespace also simplifies selling products, whether they're handmade or digital. Everything from listing items, managing inventory, and tracking shipments is streamlined to ensure your customers get their orders smoothly. So if you're somebody who wants to join the thousands of other people who've used Squarespace to make their dreams a reality, just go to squarespace.com/brandintenneld or click the link in the description and sign up for your free trial. Then, when you're confident your site's ready for launch, use the promo code BrandonTenneld for 10% off your first purchase. Alright, let's get into it. So far on this channel, I've covered the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which was one of the primary inspirations for Godzilla, and also Gorgo, where a monster that looks like Godzilla goes on a rampage through London. Well, the director of both of those movies also made another giant monster movie that's kind of a bridge between those two. And if you're wondering why it took me so long to get to this one, it's because it's not as good as the other two. The Giant Behemoth is a 1959 British monster movie from director Eugene Laurie, who, as I mentioned, also made The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which featured stop-motion animation from Ray Harryhausen, and Gorgo, which used the Godzilla-style man-in-a-suit stomping on models technique. Laurie wasn't able to get Ray Harryhausen to do the effects again, but he was able to get Harryhausen's mentor, Willis O'Brien, who worked on the original King Kong, as well as the Black Scorpion, which I've also done a video on. Okay, so no Harryhausen, but they got O'Brien. That's gotta be good, right? Well, sorta. It's kinda like getting Michael Jordan when he played for the Washington Wizards. Yeah, he's a legend, but this isn't the thing he's gonna be most fondly remembered for. Anyway, a lot of 50s monster flicks begin with an atomic explosion, but guess what this one starts with?
And the Lord said, Behold now the Behemoth.
Yeah, that's right. This one goes straight up biblical on your ass. Of course, there's some nuclear stock footage too, except this time there's a reason for it. It's part of a presentation being put on by an American scientist named Steve Carnes to a room full of stiff upper lip Brits about the dangers of radiation.
And yet with each of these explosions, we are hurling into our atmosphere hundreds of tons of radioactive materials.
Look, we understand your concern, but most of the monsters created by this are just going to be a problem for Japan.
Now, we checked samples of the seawater in this area, and the radiation was insignificant. But in the tiny plankton living in this water, it was 2,000 times greater.
Oh boy, I know what happens when radioactive plankton gets out of control. The results are really stupid. While most of the gathered scientists think there's nothing to worry about, Steve may be onto something, because in a nearby seaside village, a guy gets killed by this weird, overlaid Doctor Who effect. And if you still needed proof this movie's British... See? Darts. The only way this could be more British is if they were watching a tournament on TV. Good news, lady, your dad isn't drunk at the pub. Bad news, he seems to be badly sunburned. I guess the clouds must have parted for a few seconds.
What was it?
Behemoth.
Well, yeah, but how big was it? I mean, are we talking like a teeny-weeny behemoth here? Oh, this is kind of like the part in Godzilla 98 where the fisherman said Gojira, except this time he actually said the right monster name. And in case anyone still didn't know what that name is...
Behold now the behemoth, which I made with thee, and sparks of fire leap out from the behemoth.
Alright, dude, I know what the title of the movie is. And hey, I already made one Godzilla 98 reference. What's another one?
Look!
That's a lot of fish.
And there's more than just fish on this beach.
What's this stuff?
I don't know, but don't touch it. See? Told ya. Seriously though, what is that? Did he just touch a pile of behemoth dookie? Whatever it was, it seems to have made the news.
Or from Lou,
comes a report that a sea monster has been sighted. No doubt one of the Loch Ness variety with fire breathing and all that.
Is the Loch Ness Monster known for breathing fire? That's like if Bigfoot was known for shooting lasers out of his eyes. And now that I say that, I wouldn't mind a movie about a laser Sasquatch. Now that Steve's heard a report about a giant monster, he goes to another scientist and says it might have something to do with radiation. Well, it is a 50s monster movie, so that's a good guess.
I'm going down there, Professor Bickford. How do you get there?
Now, look here. You're young, aggressive.
1959, when a guy who looked like this could get called young. I guess I shouldn't be too harsh, though. This actor was younger than I am when he made this. Anyway, they go to the fishing village and ask the locals if they saw anything unusual.
Things bad about here?
You should have seen the beach last week. Aye, and outside, too. Everywhere a man looked, fish floating, belly up.
Oh boy, these guys are gonna say old Greg's responsible, aren't they? This is what happens when you stare into his mangina for too long. However, this girl has her own idea of what's responsible.
Did he say anything? Could he speak?
He said behemoth.
Behemoth?
Okay, until one of you puts the word giant in front of that, I'm not doing the title drop gag, alright? Steve wants to test the local fish population for traces of radiation, which leads to one of the staples of 50s science fiction, overly long, overly science-y scenes.
Now, if the fish has absorbed any radioactive particles, they'll be concentrated in the bones and the internal organs. Next.
No one will be seated during the thrilling taking x-rays of fish scene. And turns out all they had to do was turn out the lights, since these fish are so radioactive they glow in the dark.
I want to scout out the exact area where that fish was found. Can you get me a boat?
Are you still holding to the monster there?
Well, let's hope it's a monster, otherwise this poster is really misleading. Okay, I know it's common for a lot of 50s monster flicks to hide the monster and not fully reveal it until after the halfway point, but a lot of the best ones at least give you effective teases of the monster to keep you interested. In this one, so far all we've got is some dead fish and a guy getting burnt by a pile of monster shit. Hell, in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, we got a full look at the monster just 10 minutes into the movie. By contrast, the first glimpse we get of the monster here doesn't come until over half an hour in, when Steve goes out on a boat and sees what looks like an old Loch Ness monster photo. Actually, wait, it's not breathing fire, so I guess it can't be the Loch Ness monster. And guess what this scene leads to?
Well, it's gone.
What do we do now?
That's it. That's all we see of it. Here's another example. In this movie, they show the aftermath of a wrecked ship that was supposedly attacked by the monster, but in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, they actually showed the monster sinking a ship. And there was also the part where it attacked the lighthouse. These were effective glimpses of the monster that helped keep the audience's attention in between the talky parts, and were a lot more exciting than, you know, taking x-rays of fish. Anyway, now that Steve has a better idea of what they're dealing with, time to let everybody know what he saw.
I feel, Admiral, what we're facing is a marine animal of tremendous size and strength.
Behemoth?
That's as good a name as any for now.
Sure, but how big was this behemoth? Would you say it was a giant behemoth?
Well, we saw it from a distance. Too far to tell just what it was. But it was gigantic.
Okay, whatever, close enough. At the halfway point, we do get a bit more of the monster when it attacks a farmhouse in the middle of the countryside and promptly kills the occupants with its radioactive hypnovision. Hey, as long as he gets rid of the Kenny, I'm fine with it. Oh shit, he turned that kid into some concept art for the movie. There's only one explanation for what could have caused this: the 1998 Godzilla. Or, you know, the behemoth, I guess. Now that they know they're dealing with some type of dinosaur, they go to a paleontologist for more information, which is another thing they did in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Okay, I think I figured out why I've been making so many Godzilla 98 references. Turns out this movie is also an unofficial remake of Beast. Hey, at least this one has the excuse of being made by the same director. Here's another similarity. In Beast, they said the monster's headed for New York because that was its old spawning grounds. And in this one, they say it's headed for London because that's where its species went to die. Man, people have got to learn not to build cities over old dinosaur stomping grounds. That's why I live in Saskatchewan. Monsters never want to come here. And neither does anybody else, really. And this paleontologist knows some weird things about the monster.
I suppose you know it's also electric.
Electric.
Electric, like an eel.
Wait, so it's radioactive and electric? So is that supposed to be radiation or electricity coming off of it? This feels like they couldn't decide on whether the monster should have electrical or radiation powers, so they just went with both.
We're told that it carries a strong electric charge. Judging by the beast's size, I would say it was powerful enough to drive a battleship.
Well, sure, but is it as powerful as a flying battleship? Only one thing left to do now: evacuate London.
You're asking us to evacuate the city? Why, we didn't do that even at the height of the Blitz. And now, for a single overgrown crocodile, which we don't even know is heading this way.
Wow, that might be the most British response to a giant monster threat ever. All it needed was that guy going, well, it's simply not done, dear boy. Meanwhile, the paleontologist goes out in a helicopter looking for the monster.
We've sighted a moving object underneath the water. I'm going down to investigate.
Oh boy, I think I know where this is going. I meant the monster was gonna poke its head out of the water and grab the helicopter, but sure, that works too. Okay, so the paleontologist got killed trying to see the monster, kinda like in that other movie. The monster begins its assault on London, but if you thought this meant we'd finally get to see some of O'Brien's animation, no dice, because for now we just get a plastic monster head attacking a ferry. My favorite part of this sequence, though, is how bored some of the British extras look. I wasn't able to find exact figures, but I get the feeling the budget on this was lower than Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. I mean, come on, just look at how fake this drowning girl is, and oh, that's a doll. Sorry. Despite the giant monster attacking the city, everyone in London is still walking around like nothing's happening.
There is no reason for panic, but the immediate vicinity of the River Thames is dangerous.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Yeah, she had the same reaction during the Blitz. Damn air raid sirens kept interrupting her naps. So what's the plan, boys?
The beast appeared at Woolwich, where it destroyed the ferry and collided with 4 motor barges.
Are you closing the bridges, Commissioner?
Yes, we'll close them after tea time. No need to get your knickers in a twist. Oh, and because this is basically a retread of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, that means we need a reason for why the military doesn't just blow the monster up. In Beast, it was because the monster was carrying a deadly prehistoric disease in its blood, and in this one, it's because the monster is radioactive and they don't want to spread nuclear dino giblets all over London. But there is an upside to the monster being radioactive.
This animal, we know, is carrying such a huge concentration of radioactive particles that it cannot possibly survive. Right now, it's dying of its own radioactivity.
I wonder if the makers of Godzilla vs. Destroya saw this movie. They planned to overload the monster by shooting a radioactive isotope into it. Again, kinda like in that other movie. But because Lee Van Cleef isn't around to do the job, they decide to use a submarine to shoot it into the monster. My question is, when the hell are we gonna see some of Willis O'Brien's animation? We're over an hour in. Hey, there it is. So now we finally see Willis O'Brien's stop-motion monster, and it looks... okay for the time, I guess. Alright, O'Brien worked on King Kong, and he was Harryhausen's mentor, so his place in special effects history is secure. That said, this is not the best example of his work. By this point, O'Brien was in his 70s and in poor health, and as a result, he mainly took on a supervising role, with most of the actual animation being done by Pete Peterson, or Pedersen as it's spelled here. Yeah, sure, this was the same arrangement as on The Black Scorpion, but the animation in that one was a lot better. Here, the animation seems stiff, and it doesn't have any of the little touches that either O'Brien or Ray Harryhausen put into their best work. It doesn't help that this isn't exactly the most memorable monster design ever. It kind of reminds me of when old cartoons would make a generic-looking dinosaur. Not only was the budget low, but O'Brien and Peterson weren't given much time to do the animation and had to cut corners. For example, the same shot of the monster crushing a car is repeated 3 times. Not only that, but you can actually see the model falling apart in some shots. Alright, I know I'm comparing this to Beast from 20,000 Fathoms a lot, but... yeah, the effects in that were a lot better. One thing the Beast didn't have, though, is this weird radioactive power, which doesn't really seem to fit it. That's probably because the movie was originally supposed to be about an amorphous, blob-like creature that emitted radiation, but because Laurie also directed Beast, the producers insisted that it be changed to a dinosaur. That would explain why they had those pulsating blobs earlier in the movie. By the way, they never explain those, so I'm just gonna assume those really were pieces of its shit. Damn, this has gotta be the biggest monster to ever set foot in London. Well, okay, maybe the second biggest. There's also another Godzilla connection here where the monster tears down some power lines, which I guess fits with the electrical powers they said it had earlier. I mean, this is the only part of the movie where we see him. Now, because the monster's attacking London, you're probably thinking it's gonna tear down some famous landmarks, right? I mean, in Gorgo, we saw the monster destroy Big Ben and the Tower Bridge. This one's gotta smash some landmarks too, right? No, it doesn't do any of that. I mean, at least in the 1998 Godzilla, the military destroyed some famous New York buildings. Okay, it destroyed a car. That's something, I guess. Meanwhile, our heroes are busy prepping that radium torpedo, although I'm still not sure if they're taking this situation seriously.
You just tell me where to steer and when to pull the trigger.
I'll certainly try.
Well, there's a monster rampaging through London killing tons of people, but I'll try my best. It's at this point the movie suddenly turns into Giant Behemoth. Well, at least they actually show the monster swimming instead of just walking underwater. This climax isn't quite as eye-catching as the burning amusement park finale from Beast. Well, too bad this movie wasn't made today. They could have shot the monster from the top of the London Eye, and check out how the monster dies. Alright, so much for not getting radioactive pieces everywhere. Alright, time for one last Beast from 20,000 Fathoms comparison. In that movie, Harryhausen's animation gave the monster's death some real pathos, and almost made you feel sorry for it. In this one, just blow it up and be done with it. There is one extra thing this movie has, though.
We have just received a report from America that mountains of dead fish are washing ashore along the coast from Maine to Florida. We now return you to our normal program.
Okay, most 50s monster flicks don't end on a sequel hook. Usually as soon as the monster dies, that's it. Even if you're somebody who enjoyed the other two Eugene Laurie monster flicks I talked about, you might be disappointed with this one. I know most 50s sci-fi flicks are talky, but this one seems talkier than usual. Even at just 80 minutes, the pace is pretty slow. And this would be okay if the monster was any good, but in both design and effects quality, it's just kinda bland. Really, the only thing that makes it stand out is the weird radiation power, which seems like it's from another movie. The original concept for this seems like they wanted to make a Quatermass-style cerebral sci-fi movie. I mean, hell, this even has a Professor Quatermass in it. And if they had gone that route instead of a simple monster movie, this could have been interesting. But no, instead the producers just wanted a retread of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And instead of Prime Ray Harryhausen doing the effects, we have Willis O'Brien at the end of his career. This was the last monster flick O'Brien oversaw animation for, and he died just 3 years after it came out. This one's far from the worst 50s monster flick I've done on this channel. I mean, just look at The Giant Claw. But of the 3 giant monster flicks directed by Eugene Laurie, this is easily the worst one. There, now all I have to do is that killer robot movie Laurie directed, and I'll have done them all. Well, that's all for now. Until next time.